What's crackalackin'? It's your boy Broshmo, just in case you did not know so. And we're talking tight ends. Tight ends. It's a tough position to predict and to project. We are also it's a rough week this week. We're down Kyle Rudolph, we're down Hunter Henry and Travis Kelce. So some of you guys that are vying for the playoffs might need to know, hey, I need a good tight end start this week. Well, I'm glad you're here. Let's talk about tight ends before we get into that. I got a new mock draft out. Check that out. And come bro and subscribe if you enjoy the content. It's much appreciated. Much obliged. I got more content coming to the channel in the near future. But yeah, leave a thumbs up if you enjoy the content. And let's talk tight ends. Thursday night, we got the Colts versus the Texans. Jack Doyle and Eric Ebron. Oh, they're too hard to predict, man. Their target shares are wild. Jack Doyle, he only had one target last week, and he no receptions. Eric Ebron had 4 receptions, but I mean, there might be better starts out there. Just move along. Darren Fells, this dude. Let's talk about Darren Fells because he's a sit this week, by the way. Last week he had 1 reception for 18 yards. This guy is the 10th highest scoring tight end in fantasy football. That don't tell you how tough how rough it is for the tight end position. I don't know what does. He's a sit for me just because he's so touchdown dependent. You can't trust it. I think there's better guys you can gamble on. Let's talk about Miami versus Cleveland. Let's start with Steve Carlson, a name you're probably not familiar with. He plays for the Browns. He got a touchdown last week for the Browns. Only saw 1 reception though. But David Njoku, might be playing. I don't know if he is, but I don't think he practiced. But he is now available. He might be in this game. So I wouldn't start him this week, Njoku, but roster him. If you need a tight end, roster him. He's got a big matchup against Arizona in the future. Probably if you're going to make the playoffs, you want that matchup. Arizona lays down to tight ends. But as for the other guys, Harris and Seals Jones, they saw no volume. Carlson, you can't predict. These guys are sits. Mike Gesicki, I know rough week last week, but he's still a start. He's seen at least 6 targets in the last 3 games, so there's some viability there. Like I said, sometimes you got to gamble at the tight end position. Tampa Bay versus Atlanta. Let's talk about Cameron Brate popping off last week, but don't chase those phantom points. What has he done for like the bulk of the season? Nothing. Just as much as OJ Howard. They're both sits. Don't chase the phantom points. As far as Graham, he is the guy who is filling in for Austin Hooper. Hooper is questionable, but not likely to play. Graham is still a sit, even with the great matchup. He only played 34 snaps, so you're fine. Don't do it. And then Denver versus Buffalo. Noah Fant. He dropped a touchdown last week, but he popped off. He's been popping off the last few weeks. Tough matchup. Buffalo, they're actually first against opposing tight ends, but with the volume he's been getting, I think he's a start. As far as Dawson Knox, he doesn't get the volume. He's a starter, but he's not getting the volume last week. He was touchdown dependent. He got a touchdown off his 2 targets. So he's a sit for me this week. But that Noah Fant, right? Then we got the Giants versus the Bears. The Bears tight ends are a sit. They're just not viable. They don't see targets. Evan Ingram, though, is a start if he is healthy. Be sure to keep the lookout for that. Evan Ingram has been pretty good when healthy this year. Pittsburgh versus Cincinnati. I think Tyler Eifert is still a start. He's not putting up great numbers, but he's seen at least 4 targets in the last 2 games. I mean, and with Ryan Finley still at quarterback, he will see targets. He will see opportunity. And the Steelers, they're 27th against opposing tight ends. So that might be not a bad start. And Vance McDonald, you got to take what you get, man. This is a matchup where Cincinnati, they're 20th against opposing tight ends. No Juju. They might use Jalen Samuels a lot out of the backfield, but Vance McDonald does see some targets. So I don't think he's a bad option. He would be low tier for me if you're like in absolute desperation mode. Carolina versus, who are they facing? They're facing the Saints. Ooh, Greg Olsen, he's always a start. He's been dependable all year. Tough matchup. The Saints are 10th, but he should be fine. As far as Jared Cook, he made his return 2 weeks ago, and with Breeze under center, he's had 8 receptions, 107 yards, and a touchdown between those 2 games. So even in the tough matchup, because Carolina are 3rd against opposing tight ends, I still like Jared Cook. He has good opportunity there. And then we go to Oakland versus the Jets. Darren Waller, come on, man. It's a tough tight end climate. You got to start Waller. I know he hasn't been as hot as he started the season off, but I still think he's a fine start here. Foster Moreau, he's a sit. He's still touchdown dependent. He has 4 touchdowns on the year, but how are you going to predict that, you know? And then Ryan Griffin might be my start of the week. The Oakland, they're 30th against opposing tight ends, and Darnold has been going to Griffin. He has like 3 or 4 number 1 tight end or tight end 1 performances. I'll take it. I think I said that right. He's been the highest scoring tight end for 4 different weeks. There we go. Start of the week, man. Start of the week. Seattle versus Philly. Jacob Hollister, this guy I've been telling people to pick up weeks ago, and I don't think he's a bad start in these tough tight end times. He has come in and he has taken that Will Disley volume, and he's done pretty well with it. Tough matchup, but I still like him here. As far as Zach Ertz, he's always a start. Dallas Goedert is a start as well. The Seahawks are 26 against opposing tight ends. Both combined for 24 points in half PPR leagues last week. So I don't mind starting Dallas Goedert if you have to. Detroit versus Washington. Both these guys, both Jeremy Sprinkle and TJ Hawkinson, are sits for me just because there's better options. Sprinkle's touchdown dependent, and Hawkinson keeps dropping touchdowns. And I think he only had 2 catches last week anyway, so yeah, he's a sit for me. Jacksonville versus Tennessee. Jacksonville tight ends score less than Cardinal tight ends. And guess what? The Cardinals rarely use their tight ends. So Jacksonville, yeah, don't look into their tight ends. As far as the Titans, though, Delaney Walker, he's expected to be back, but let's just stop and wait. Keep him on your bench and see what his target share looks like. If that's the case, Jonnu Smith, what was it, Furker, who's been taking a lot of volume away from Smith. They're both sits. Even if Delaney Walker is out, I think they're both sits this week. Dallas versus New England. I got an interesting take. Let's first start with the Patriots. Ben Watson, he's a tough start even in a really good matchup. Dallas is their 28th against opposing tight ends, but still, I wouldn't do it. And then Jason Witten is a sit for me. The Patriots are 8th against opposing tight ends, but hear me out here. Was it Blake Jarwin? He's a low end start for me, and here I think he's the tight end with the big upside. He can make the big plays, and in the last couple of games for the Patriots, it's been that second tight end who's really produced well. Nick Boyle for the Ravens, and then Dallas Goedert for the Eagles. So if you want to take a shot, this is me saying, if you want to gamble, I think Blake Jarwin might not be a bad option. But if he bombs, I'm sorry. Packers versus the 49ers. Jimmy Graham, he's a sit. Tough matchup. Niners are 2nd against opposing tight ends. And then George Kittle, he's always a start, but if he's not healthy, I think Dwelly, I think he's a start as well if Kittle can't go. Packers are 29th against opposing tight ends, so there's a little upside there. Got to take what you get. It's a tough tight end climate we live in. These are tough times. And then we're going to the Monday night game. Ravens versus the Rams. Mark Andrews, he's a start, man. He's been very reliable for you this year. Gerald Everett, though, is a sit. He just had 2.5 points last week in half PPR leagues. Ravens are 6th against opposing tight ends, so it's not a good matchup. And guess who's throwing them the ball? Jared Goff Awful. Yeah, you like what I said? Goff Awful. Yeah, I actually got that joke from Fantasy Footballers. Those guys are great. But that's it for the video. Go ahead, do the YouTube themes. Much appreciated, much obliged. And yeah, until next time, you be easy, my friends, and I'll see y'all in the next one. I just butchered my outro. Oh well, later.